AITA for refusing to apologize to my sister for an incident at my wedding that she says ruined everything. I, 32F, recently got married to my husband, Daniel, 34M. We had been together for 7 years, and planning this wedding had been a massive undertaking. We live in a moderately small town, so a lot of our family and friends were involved in helping out. My sister, Karen, 28F, has always been someone who wants to be in control of events, even when it's not her responsibility. Historically, she's been difficult but manageable, and I always thought she'd eventually get over her controlling tendencies. Unfortunately, she did not. From the beginning, I made it very clear that I wanted a wedding that reflected me and Daniel, not anyone else. I asked my sister to help with small things like addressing invitations and coordinating with a few vendors. I thought this would be an okay compromise because it allowed her to feel involved without actually controlling the event. Initially, she seemed fine, but things started to get weird during the planning. The first major issue arose with the seating chart. Karen insisted that her friends and colleagues be seated at the head table alongside our parents and immediate family. I told her politely that this wasn't possible and that the head table was reserved for close family and the bridal party. She got visibly upset, but didn't argue further at that moment. The bigger problem started the day before the wedding during the rehearsal dinner. Karen got into a huge fight with my mother over where the flowers should be placed. She loudly announced that the arrangements were all wrong and that she had better ideas for the layout. My mom tried to reason with her, but Karen kept escalating, making snide comments about the color scheme I had chosen. I was furious, but I didn't want a huge scene before the wedding, so I stayed quiet and focused on calming everyone else down. The wedding day arrived, and everything was mostly going well. Our ceremony was beautiful, the weather was perfect, and we were surrounded by friends and family. That was until Karen decided to fix my bouquet. She grabbed it from me right before walking down the aisle, saying it was too small and that she had added extra flowers to make it look more elegant. I was shocked, and it completely threw me off. I politely asked her to leave it as it was, but she refused. My maid of honor stepped in and tried to mediate, but Karen just rolled her eyes and stormed off. The ceremony went on, but I couldn't shake the anger and humiliation of what had just happened. After the ceremony, things continued to spiral. Karen criticized the photographer, told the caterers their work was subpar, and even went as far as to tell some of our guests that this wedding could have been so much better if I had listened to her advice. I finally had enough and pulled her aside, telling her that her behavior was unacceptable and that she needed to stop trying to control every aspect of the day. She started crying and accusing me of humiliating her in front of everyone and being a terrible sister. That night at the reception, Karen refused to sit at her assigned table, instead roaming around, making passive-aggressive comments to other guests about how the wedding drama was my fault. My parents tried to intervene, and at one point, my mom asked me to apologize to Karen so the evening could calm down. I refused. I felt like apologizing would be admitting that I was wrong, but I truly believe Karen's behavior had been outrageous and inappropriate. The next day, I received multiple messages from mutual friends and family members expressing their disappointment at my refusal to apologize. Karen texted me directly, saying she would never forgive me and that I had ruined our relationship forever. She then started posting cryptic comments on social media about sisters who make everything about themselves, which was clearly aimed at me. I feel like I'm being painted as the villain here, but I genuinely believe that I did nothing wrong. My wedding was meant to celebrate me and my husband, not cater to my sister's ego. I never prevented her from participating or having fun. I only asked her to respect boundaries and let us make decisions for our own wedding. My friends and husband support me completely, and several guests even told me privately that Karen's behavior was inappropriate and uncomfortable. My parents are split. My dad says I should reach out to Karen and apologize for the sake of family peace, while my mom feels like I'm partly responsible for letting things escalate, but also agrees that Karen crossed a line. Daniel is fully on my side and thinks Karen's behavior was completely out of line. Now, Karen has been giving me the silent treatment, and every family event feels tense because she refuses to speak to me. Some of my friends have suggested that I should reach out and make peace, but part of me feels like apologizing for something I didn't do just to make her feel better would be wrong. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to apologize to my sister after the chaos at my wedding. Even though she claims I humiliated her and ruined everything. Character count, 6,498 if you want. I can also draft a slightly longer version hitting the full 7,000 character maximum, with more family dynamics and guest interactions to make it feel even more like the viral AITA stories. Do you want me to do that? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after what she did to my partner? I, 29F, have always been close with my sister, Emily, 32F. Growing up, we shared a lot of milestones and supported each other through some pretty rough times. When we were teenagers, she helped me navigate high school drama, and I was there for her when she went through her messy breakup in college. I've always considered us more than siblings. We were each other's confidants, partners in crime, and even a little like best friends. When Emily got engaged last year, I was genuinely thrilled. She's marrying her high school sweetheart, Mark, 33M, and they've been together for almost 15 years. I was asked to be her maid of honor, and I accepted immediately. At first, everything seemed perfect. We spent months planning the bachelorette party, dress fittings, and the small but intimate bridal shower she wanted. But then things started getting weird. It all started about 3 months ago when Emily began making subtle, then not so subtle, comments about my partner, Jake, 30M. Jake and I have been together for 4 years. He's thoughtful, funny, and incredibly supportive, and I truly love him. He gets along with my family pretty well, although he's a bit reserved compared to Emily's loud personality. It started with little digs. At a bridal shower planning meeting, Emily rolled her eyes when Jake offered to help me with some DIY decorations. She muttered, "Why is he even here? He'll just mess it up." I laughed it off at first, thinking it was just her stress showing. Then, at a dress fitting, she made another comment, "I hope Jake doesn't embarrass you when he comes to pick up the bridesmaid dress." Some men just don't understand anything about fashion. I tried to shrug it off again, but it kept happening. The situation escalated when Emily started making demands about who could be at her wedding and where they could sit. She insisted that Jake and I arrive separately, claiming that it would be less stressful for everyone. I questioned her about this because it felt unfair, especially since we had been planning to attend together, but she brushed me off. Then came the most upsetting part. Emily sent me a long text explaining that she didn't want Jake involved in any wedding-related photos, including group shots with a bridal party, because it will distract from the aesthetic she's trying to create. I was stunned. This wasn't just a small comment anymore. It was actively excluding my partner from events that I'd assumed he would naturally be part of. I tried to reason with Emily. I told her that Jake is a part of my life, and I wouldn't feel comfortable being part of the wedding if he was treated like an outsider. I asked if she could at least reconsider him being in the family photos, and she became defensive, claiming I was overreacting and making this about Jake instead of her special day. She accused me of trying to ruin her wedding by insisting on including him, which felt ridiculous because all I wanted was for him to be treated respectfully. Things reached a breaking point 2 weeks ago. We were supposed to have a final dress fitting and rehearsal dinner, and she called me to tell me that Jake was no longer allowed at either event. She said it would cause tension and that people might gossip. I tried to reason with her one last time, explaining that excluding him from such central events felt hurtful and unfair, but she hung up on me, saying I was being selfish and controlling. After that call, I realized that no matter what I said, Emily wasn't going to budge. I discussed it with Jake, and we decided that attending without him was not something I could do. I know it sounds extreme, but I couldn't imagine pretending that everything was okay while my partner was being systematically excluded. I sent Emily a message telling her I couldn't attend the wedding if Jake wasn't welcome. I explained my reasons calmly and told her that I hoped she could understand that this was about respect and love, not about ruining her wedding. Emily's response was, predictably, furious. She called me a selfish brat and accused me of holding her wedding hostage. She said I had made this about Jake and that I didn't care about her feelings. She also started posting on social media about how family drama was ruining her wedding, which has led to some mutual friends reaching out to me, asking what's going on. Some friends have told me I might be overreacting, saying that weddings are stressful and that maybe I should just let it slide. Others have been supportive, saying that what Emily did is unreasonable and that I have the right to stand by my partner. I'm torn because I do love my sister and I don't want to ruin our relationship, but I also feel like what she did crossed a line that I can't ignore. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she won't allow my partner to be part of it? I feel like I'm standing up for myself and my relationship, but I also worry I might be overreacting and overcomplicating things. I just can't see attending her wedding and pretending that excluding Jake is okay. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she completely disregarded my boundaries and finances? I, 32F, have always had a complicated relationship with my younger sister, Emma, 29F. Growing up, she was the type of sibling everyone warns you about. The one who seemed to have an innate ability to push her buttons, but at the same time, I always felt responsible for making sure she was okay. I was the older sister in the truest sense. The peacemaker, the one who planned events so she could have fun, and often the one who picked up the pieces when things went wrong. About a year ago, Emma got engaged to a man she's been dating for about 2 years, Chris, 31M. I met Chris a few times, and at least initially, I liked him. He seemed respectful, funny, and generally well-mannered, but the more they planned their wedding, the more I realized that Emma's vision of the day was completely detached from reality, or at least reality as it applied to other people's time, energy, and money. At first, she hinted that she'd love to have the wedding at my house. Now, I live in a modest 3-bedroom townhouse. It's cozy, and while I can host small gatherings, the idea of hosting a 100-plus person wedding was absurd. I told her outright that my place simply wasn't big enough, and she brushed it off, saying that I just needed to get creative. I even offered to help find venues or help with decorations, but she insisted she wanted it to be personal and intimate, like family only, even though her guest list was clearly in the triple digits. Over the next few months, Emma started dropping more and more hints about needing money. She wanted to rent a big tent, hire a caterer, and pay for a full bar, expenses she claimed she couldn't cover herself. I make a decent living, but I also have student loans, a mortgage, and savings goals, so I try to draw a line. I said I could help a little, maybe with the rental of some tables and chairs or flowers, but I wasn't going to bankroll the entire thing. She got defensive, saying I wasn't supporting her dreams and that Chris's parents were only giving a token amount. Then things escalated. About 2 months before the wedding, she told me she needed to borrow $5,000 for the venue deposit. And when I said no, she got visibly upset and said that if I couldn't help her, maybe I didn't really care about her happiness. I was shocked. I offered to help her brainstorm cheaper venues, look at community halls, even help set up a DIY wedding if it came down to it. But the conversation quickly turned into an argument where she accused me of being selfish. I tried to explain that my financial situation doesn't allow me to drop thousands of dollars on a party, but she wouldn't hear it. The breaking point came last month. She texted me saying that she had already told her guests the wedding was at my house. She said she thought I wouldn't mind and that it was too late to change plans now. I was furious. Not only had she completely ignored my repeated refusals, but she had also lied to friends and family about something that affected me personally. I told her that if she wanted to continue with her wedding at my house, she would have to deal with it herself or cancel because I wasn't hosting 100 strangers in a home I couldn't accommodate. She accused me of being dramatic and unkind, and that's when I decided to cut the cord. I told her I wouldn't participate in the wedding at all if it went forward at my house. No help, no decorations, no attendance. The fallout has been intense. Our parents are caught in the middle. They tried to convince me to just let it slide for Emma's sake, and I reminded them that I had boundaries and financial limits, which Emma had blatantly ignored. My friends are divided. Some say I should have just given in to avoid family drama, while others think Emma's behavior was manipulative. I've also received passive-aggressive messages from extended family, asking why I can't just be a good sister and pointing out that my refusal is ruining her big day. Emma hasn't spoken to me in a week, and honestly, I'm relieved. I feel guilty that I hurt her feelings, but at the same time, I feel like I've done the only thing I could to protect my space, finances, and sanity. Chris has reached out via text, trying to smooth things over, but I told him this isn't something I can negotiate. The thing that really bothers me is that Emma knew my limits from the start. I laid them out clearly multiple times, and she chose to ignore them. She manipulated the situation by telling guests the wedding was at my house before even asking for permission. It feels like she values the appearance of a perfect wedding over the real people involved in making it happen. So, Reddit, here's where I stand. I refuse to host my sister's wedding because she lied about my home being the venue, ignored my financial boundaries, and tried to guilt-trip me into participation. I've made it clear I will not be part of the wedding if it continues at my house. But now our relationship is fractured, my family is stressed, and I can't help but wonder if I've handled this too harshly. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she completely disregarded my boundaries and finances? Character count, 6,372 if you want. I can also write a second version that pushes even closer to the 7,000 character limit, adding more intricate family drama and tension, which often makes AITA posts go viral. Do you want to do that? AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancé take over my grandmother's house after she passed away. So I, 28F, am currently dealing with what feels like the most ridiculous family drama I've ever been involved in, and I need an outside perspective because honestly, I'm starting to doubt myself. My grandmother passed away about 6 months ago. She lived alone in the house she had for decades, and before she passed, she made it clear that the house was going to me and my younger brother, 26M, jointly. My brother, Ben, is generally very easygoing and has always deferred to me when it comes to big decisions because I'm better at handling logistics and finances. The issue began almost immediately after the funeral. Ben's fiancée, Sophie, 25F, started dropping hints that she should have a say in what happens to the house since she's basically part of the family now. At first, I tried to be accommodating, Ben and I discussed the idea of maybe renovating the house and turning it into a shared space for both our families. But Sophie immediately jumped to wanting full control. She argued that I had no right to decide anything because it's about the future family, not just you and Ben. I told her point blank that while she's welcome in our lives, the house legally belongs to Ben and me, and my grandmother specifically intended for us to inherit it. Sophie started insisting that it was unfair that she couldn't just move in with us and make it ours. I reminded her that she isn't married to Ben yet, so legally and ethically, it's still our property. Ben tried to be the mediator, suggesting we might rent it out and split the money so that everyone benefits, but Sophie refused. She said that wouldn't feel like home, and that it would be better if she just took over because she understands how to run a house. I decided to ignore the pressure for a while, thinking it would blow over, but Sophie escalated quickly. She began texting Ben daily, trying to guilt him into agreeing with her. She even went so far as to say that if she didn't get what she wanted, she'd consider breaking up with him because family tensions are too stressful. This obviously put Ben in a tough spot, but he kept insisting that he wasn't going to go against me or the wishes of our grandmother. Then came the real kicker. About 2 months ago, Sophie called my job unannounced to discuss family matters, which included demanding that I sign over my share of the house to her. I was furious. First, it's completely inappropriate to involve my employer in personal disputes, and second, this was totally out of line. I blocked her number and told Ben that if she continued trying to manipulate the situation, I have to go legal. It's important to note that my grandmother left very clear instructions in her will and had an attorney who made sure everything was legally binding. The house is in our names, and the will specifies that it should not be sold or transferred outside the family without unanimous agreement. Despite this, Sophie continued to try subtle manipulations, gifts, flattery, guilt trips, even hinting to Ben that he owes her this after supporting her dreams. She's extremely manipulative, and honestly, part of me thinks she's trying to test boundaries to see how much she can take. A week ago, I had to have a serious talk with Ben. I laid it all out: Sophie's behavior, her constant pressure, and the legal reality of the situation. I told him that if he allows her to take control of the house, I would be forced to take legal action to protect our grandmother's wishes. Ben reluctantly agreed with me, but he's caught in a terrible spot because Sophie refuses to back down and has started talking about moving in anyway. The latest development is that Sophie has now started posting passive-aggressive comments on social media, tagging Ben in them, about how some people care more about property than family, and how she hopes everyone can just be happy one day. My family is now divided. My parents and aunts/uncles are all firmly on my side, but Ben's friends and coworkers are trying to make him see Sophie's perspective, saying I'm being unreasonable for not sharing the house. Ben himself is conflicted, but he keeps telling me he can't imagine losing me as a sister, so he's leaning toward my side. Sophie, on the other hand, is insisting that she's just trying to build a future with her fiancé, and that I'm being selfish for not letting her live in a house I supposedly don't really need. I honestly feel like I'm being painted as the villain here for following both the law and my grandmother's wishes. I've tried compromise, I've tried being nice, and I've tried ignoring the passive-aggressive manipulation, but nothing has worked. Every time I say no, it's met with dramatic gestures, guilt trips, or attempts to pressure Ben. I've never been in a situation like this where a family member's partner tries to control a family inheritance like this. So, AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancé take over our grandmother's house, even though it's causing tension in my family and potentially straining my brother's relationship. I feel like I'm just protecting what's rightfully ours, but apparently, in some people's eyes, that makes me the bad guy for being unwilling to hand over a family home to someone who isn't even legally related yet. I just want to respect my grandmother's wishes and keep the house in the family. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her uninvited guest. I, 29F, have a younger sister, Emma, 26F, and we've generally been close. We grew up in a fairly traditional household, and while we don't always see eye to eye, we've never had major conflicts until now. Emma has been engaged for about a year, and over the past few months, wedding planning has revealed a side of her that I wasn't prepared for. It all started with her guest list. Emma and her fiancé, Mark, 28M, have decided on a fairly small wedding, about 70 people. She emphasized that she wanted it to be intimate, and she repeatedly told me that she didn't want to invite anyone who we weren't close to. I understood that and didn't question it at the time. About 2 months ago, Emma sent me a message that threw me off. She told me she was inviting her coworker, Liz, to the wedding. I asked her who Liz was because I didn't know anyone by that name in her office. Emma explained that Liz was a friend from work who she hung out with occasionally, but I got the sense that Emma was exaggerating the closeness. When I asked if Liz had been invited officially by Mark or if this was some kind of +1 situation, Emma shrugged it off, saying, "It's fine. I just want her there." Here's the thing. Liz is someone I know personally because she's been dating my ex-boyfriend's best friend for the past year. We've crossed paths multiple times, and I've never gotten along with her. She's manipulative, passive-aggressive, and has a history of stirring drama in every social circle she's part of. To put it mildly, I don't trust her around my family, and the thought of her being at an intimate wedding made me extremely uncomfortable. I brought this up with Emma, trying to be diplomatic. I said, "I understand you want Liz there, but I really don't want someone like her at a family wedding. It's going to be awkward, and she has a history of creating tension." Emma's response was infuriating. She said, "She's my friend, and I think you're overreacting. You got to get over your issues with her." I reminded her that this wasn't about my issues, but about protecting the environment of the wedding and the people who actually matter in our lives. She brushed me off, saying that I was being controlling. Things escalated from there. I tried explaining to her that it's not just Liz individually, it's the pattern. Liz has a history of passive-aggressively undermining people at social gatherings, including my parents, and I couldn't see my family enduring her antics on what is supposed to be a joyful day. Emma accused me of being dramatic and told me I was making a big deal out of nothing. A week later, I received the official wedding invitation, and sure enough, Liz's name was on the guest list. At this point, I had a choice: attend the wedding and pretend everything was fine, or set my boundaries. I tried reaching out to Emma again to negotiate, suggesting that maybe Liz could come to the after-party only, or that we could have a family-only portion of the ceremony. Emma refused. She told me I was being selfish, and that if I didn't want to attend because of Liz, that was on me. I thought long and hard about this. I love my sister, but I also know that my presence at her wedding is meaningful, and I refuse to be in an environment where someone like Liz is going to potentially cause tension, drama, or discomfort for my family. I decided to RSVP no. I sent Emma a long message explaining my decision. I told her that I loved her and wanted to celebrate her marriage, but I could not attend under these circumstances. I explained that this was about creating a positive space for my family and that I hoped she could understand my perspective. Emma's reaction was immediate and intense. She called me multiple times, texting me things like, "I can't believe you're choosing a grudge over your sister, and this is your choice, but don't expect any family to understand why you're missing my wedding." She also went on social media to subtly hint that I was too petty to attend her wedding, though she didn't name me. My parents are caught in the middle. They don't want to pick sides, but they're upset at me for not attending. My father said I was letting personal feelings ruin a family milestone, and my mother was more sympathetic but still disappointed. I feel conflicted because I hate missing my sister's wedding, but I also feel like my concerns are legitimate. I have zero desire to be in a room with someone who has a consistent pattern of causing drama and tension, especially on what is supposed to be a happy day for my family. I've offered alternative ways to celebrate. Dinner with just family, a small pre-wedding gathering, but Emma insists that my presence is either at the wedding or not at all. Since declining the invitation, I've been getting mixed messages from extended family. Some think I'm overreacting and that I should just suck it up for one day. Others understand my point of view and say that I'm justified in protecting my mental health. I'm starting to wonder if I was too rigid or if I'm actually standing up for a reasonable boundary. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her uninvited guest? I genuinely want to support my sister, but I also want to avoid a situation where a person with a history of creating conflict can disrupt a significant family event. I've tried compromise, I've tried diplomacy, but I feel like my hands are tied now. Has anyone been in a situation like this where attending would cause more harm than good? I'm struggling to decide if I made the right call. Character count, 6612 if you want. I can also create a second version with slightly more drama, family confrontation, and social fallout, which tends to do even better in Reddit AITA popularity metrics. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay at my house after what happened last week. I, 28F, have always been close to my younger sister, Emma, 25F. We grew up in a small town, and even though our personalities are pretty different, I'm more cautious and organized, she's more spontaneous and carefree. We've always been supportive of each other. Our parents live several hours away, so for most of our adult lives, we've relied on each other for family support. Emma has been dating her boyfriend, Josh, 27M, for about a year. At first, I liked him. He seemed fun and funny, and I thought he made her happy. But over time, I've started noticing some red flags, mostly involving his attitude toward boundaries and responsibility. I live alone in a 2-bedroom apartment. I have a pretty strict routine. I work from home most days. I like keeping my space clean, and I'm a pretty early riser. I've always been upfront about boundaries with friends and family, and I don't mind hosting overnight guests occasionally as long as they respect the house rules. About a month ago, Emma mentioned that she and Josh were having some financial issues. They were looking for somewhere to stay temporarily because Josh's apartment lease was ending and they hadn't found a new place yet. I offered them the spare bedroom for a week or so, thinking I could help them while still maintaining my routine. I told them in advance that it would be temporary and that I expected them to clean up after themselves and respect my schedule. The first few days were fine. I noticed some small things that bothered me. Josh would leave dirty dishes in the sink for hours. He'd sometimes play video games with the volume really high in the living room when I was on calls, and he seemed to ignore some basic hygiene rules like wiping down the bathroom after use. I tried to stay calm and gently reminded him once or twice. Then last week, things escalated. I had an important deadline for a project at work and had to submit a large report by 5 p.m. on Friday. I told Emma and Josh in advance that I would need quiet and that I wouldn't be able to hang out that day. On Thursday evening, I went to bed early because I was planning to wake up at 5 a.m. to finish the final edits. Around 11 p.m., I was woken up by loud arguing and stomping around in the living room. I went out to ask them to keep it down, and it turned out they were fighting about something minor, but Josh was shouting and cursing. I reminded him that this was my home, and I wasn't comfortable with that kind of behavior, especially in the middle of the night. Emma got defensive and told me to mind my own business. I asked them both to calm down and keep the noise down, but Josh started mocking me, calling me uptight and controlling. The argument went on for another 30 minutes before they finally stormed off to their room. I couldn't get back to sleep until around 1 a.m., and the next morning I was exhausted and barely able to focus on my work. Friday afternoon, after submitting my project, I confronted Emma about Josh's behavior. I told her that I didn't feel comfortable having him in my apartment anymore. I explained that I had given him multiple reminders about respecting my space, and he had ignored them. I also told her that I was disappointed that she hadn't defended me during the argument and instead had sided with him. Emma started crying and said that I was being unreasonable, that Josh was going through a lot and needed a place to stay, and that I was choosing work over family. I told her that I wasn't saying she couldn't see him or have him stay somewhere else, but that I wasn't going to let him live in my home if he couldn't respect me and my space. I offered to help them find a hotel or a temporary Airbnb, but Emma got angry and accused me of being selfish and cold. She left my apartment that evening, and we haven't really spoken since. Now, our mutual friends are taking sides. Some of them say I'm right to protect my space and enforce boundaries, while others say I should put family first and let him stay until he gets back on his feet. My parents called and suggested I try to be more accommodating, saying that family is about making sacrifices for each other. I feel torn because I do care about Emma, and I want to support her, but I also feel like letting Josh stay after what happened would be letting him disrespect me and my home. I also discovered that since that night, Josh has been posting pictures on social media about living rent-free and freeloading, making jokes that clearly reference my apartment. Emma hasn't commented publicly, but I know she's upset with me. I tried reaching out to her to explain my perspective calmly, but she hasn't replied. So, Reddit. AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay at my place after his behavior last week. I feel like I set clear expectations, he broke them, and I'm just enforcing boundaries. But I also can't shake the feeling that maybe I overreacted or should have been more patient, given that they were in a tough spot. I'm sharing this here because I genuinely don't know if I was being too harsh. I've never had this level of conflict with Emma before, and the tension is really straining our relationship. I want to do the right thing, but I also want to feel safe and respected in my own home. AITA for refusing to cover my sister's wedding expenses after she demanded I pay for half. So, I, 32F, have a younger sister, Lily, 28F, who has always had a habit of expecting people to prioritize her needs over anything else. We grew up in a middle-class family, and while our parents were loving, they weren't particularly wealthy. Lily went through life with this sense that things should just work out for her, and I've generally been the one she turns to when she hits a snag. I'm not saying I'm perfect or that I've never overstepped, but there's definitely a history here. Fast forward a few years, I've been working as a graphic designer for a tech company. I make a decent living, own my apartment, and am comfortable with my finances. I also recently got married, and my husband and I have been saving steadily for a house. I wouldn't describe us as rich, but we're definitely financially stable. Lily, on the other hand, has had a string of jobs with irregular hours and has always been living paycheck to paycheck. Lily got engaged about a year ago and immediately started talking about her dream wedding. From the beginning, I had an uneasy feeling because of how she talks about finances. She wants a very elaborate ceremony with a big venue, expensive catering, a live band, and a designer dress that costs more than my car. I try to steer her toward a more modest budget, reminding her that she has options and could plan something beautiful without going into debt, but she shut me down. A few months ago, she approached me about the wedding budget. She said her fiancé could contribute some, but not enough to cover everything. Then she looked at me and said something like, "Well, you have a good job, and you're my sister. You should help pay for half." I laughed nervously, thinking she was joking. When I realized she wasn't, I told her that covering half a wedding for a couple in their late 20s is a massive financial commitment, one that I just can't afford without seriously impacting my plans to buy a house. She immediately got upset and said that I was being selfish and that family should support each other. I tried reasoning with her. I suggested alternatives like contributing in smaller ways, helping with invitations, helping her plan DIY decorations, or even covering one specific part of the wedding, like the cake or flowers. She dismissed all of these ideas and kept repeating that half the cost was what she expected. She also brought up that I helped pay for her college tuition when we were younger, which I didn't. I had a scholarship, but I didn't bother correcting her, and that I owed her. He stayed firm. I explained that while I love her and want her to have a beautiful wedding, expecting me to pay tens of thousands of dollars isn't reasonable. She accused me of being greedy and not caring about her happiness. Things escalated to the point where she started bringing our parents into the conversation. My parents told me they understood my position and that no one should be forced to pay beyond their means, but Lily kept going. She said they should force me to contribute, which my parents refused to do. Eventually, she started making passive-aggressive comments on social media, posting about how some siblings just don't support family and how sad it is when money comes before love. I've ignored most of it, but a few mutual friends have reached out asking if I'm really refusing to help, which makes me feel guilty even though I know I'm in the right. The situation has created a huge rift between us. Lily hasn't spoken to me in over 2 weeks, and our family gatherings have become tense. I've also noticed that her fiancé is frustrated because he doesn't want the wedding to be contentious, but he's also unwilling to cover the costs she wants alone. My husband thinks I'm doing the right thing, reminding me that it's not my responsibility to bankroll her wedding. My parents are supportive as well, but I keep thinking, am I really the asshole here? Am I being too harsh by refusing to contribute financially? Should I just bite the bullet to keep the peace, even if it hurts my own financial plans? I haven't spoken to Lily since our last argument, and I suspect she may be holding onto resentment for a long time. I also feel conflicted because I love her, but I just can't see a path where I pay half her wedding without causing major personal consequences. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to cover half my sister's wedding costs? AITA for refusing to let my brother's girlfriend stay at my house, even though she needed a place to crash. So, a bit of context. I, 29F, have lived in my apartment for about 4 years now, and I absolutely love my space. I live alone, have a strict routine, and I really value my privacy. I also have a few rules for guests. Basically, if someone is staying longer than 2 nights, I expect them to contribute either financially or by helping out with chores. I don't think that's unreasonable, but apparently my brother thinks it is. My brother, Jake, 32M, has been dating his girlfriend, Samantha, 28F, for about 6 months. I've met Samantha a handful of times, and she seems nice enough, but I honestly don't know her very well. She lives with her parents right now and has never really been independent, so I guess I was already wary about her staying over. Anyway, last week, Jake called me frantic because Samantha's parents suddenly told her she couldn't stay at home for the week, some vague reason about too many people over for the holidays or something. He asked if she could stay at my place for a few days. I told him straight up that I wasn't comfortable with that. I explained my rules. She could stay 1 night if she absolutely had no other options, but I couldn't accommodate her for a whole week. He pushed back, saying, "Come on, it's family. She has nowhere else to go. You can't just turn her away." I tried to be reasonable and suggested she could book a nearby Airbnb, or that I could help her look for a cheap short-term rental. I even offered to lend her some money to cover it. But apparently, that wasn't good enough. Jake got upset and said that I was being cruel and choosing your comfort over family. He kept texting me all day, practically begging. The thing is, it's not just the inconvenience. I have a full-time job that's extremely stressful, and I work from home sometimes. I also have pets, a cat and a dog, who get anxious around new people. Samantha has a tendency to be loud and messy, or at least that's the impression I got from the few times I've visited her parents' house. I know from experience that letting someone stay unexpectedly often turns into a longer-term, "oh, I'll just be here a few days" situation. I've been in that position before, and I've learned that it never ends well. I finally told Jake, "Look, I care about you and Samantha, but I just can't have her staying here for a week. One night is fine, but that's it." He blew up. He accused me of being selfish, said Samantha might have to sleep in her car because of me, and even hinted that I didn't care about her family. At this point, I felt guilty, but also annoyed because he was basically trying to guilt-trip me into letting someone live in my apartment temporarily. I didn't respond to his last few messages. Samantha ended up staying at a friend's house instead. Jake hasn't spoken to me since the day he called. Our parents called me yesterday and told me I should have more compassion and that I was being cold. They argued that family should always help each other, especially in a situation like this. I explained my reasoning. I offered alternatives. I'm not financially or emotionally able to host someone for a week, and I have my own life to maintain. They basically said I should make sacrifices for family, regardless. Here's the thing that's making me doubt myself. I have never refused to help a family member before. I've helped them move, loan money, watched nieces and nephews for days, and even let friends stay when they were in a pinch. But this is different because it's a stranger of sorts, someone I barely know, and it's for a week. I can't shake the feeling that if I let her stay, I'd resent both her and Jake, and that resentment would destroy our relationship anyway. On the other hand, I do feel guilty. I can't stop thinking that maybe I should have just bitten the bullet and let her stay. Yes, it would have been inconvenient, but it's not like I'm refusing a homeless person. I could have made it work somehow. So, Reddit, am I really the asshole here? I want to help my family, but I also feel like there has to be a line somewhere. I should add that I've considered compromising, like letting Samantha stay in the guest room, but not cooking for her or setting strict rules for her stay. I even mentioned that, but Jake acted like anything less than full hospitality was unacceptable. Now, I feel like my relationship with Jake is fractured. He refuses to answer my texts or calls. Our parents are subtly taking his side. I'm torn between sticking to my boundaries and feeling like I've failed as a sister. AITA for refusing to let my brother's girlfriend stay at my place for a week when she had no other options. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to let my sister's partner move in with us, even though she's insisting it's the right thing to do. So I, 28F, have always had a very defined sense of boundaries when it comes to my living space. I live alone in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in the city, which I worked hard to afford and maintain. My sister, Lisa, 32F, recently started dating someone new, Dan, 34M, and things are moving fast. They've been together for about 6 months. From the start, I liked Dan enough in brief interactions, but he's intense. I'll get to that. A few weeks ago, Lisa called me in tears one evening. She had just had a huge fight with Dan because he lost his job and was feeling homeless despite technically having his own apartment. She said she didn't feel comfortable leaving him alone in his space while he figured things out and asked if he could stay with me temporarily. I told her I didn't feel comfortable with that and suggested she help him find short-term accommodations elsewhere. Lisa cried more and said I was being unreasonable because it was only for a week or two. I said I couldn't do it, and that was the end of the conversation at the time. 2 weeks later, she brought it up again, saying that Dan had gotten into a fight with his landlord and was now being forced out immediately. She said she was worried about him sleeping in his car and asked if she could leave him at my place for just a few days until they figured something out. I said absolutely not. I explained that I live alone, and while I'm happy to help financially if necessary, having someone move in unannounced would make me extremely uncomfortable. Lisa got very upset and accused me of not loving her enough and being selfish. I thought that was the end of it until yesterday. Lisa came over without telling me that Dan was with her. She tried to corner me in the living room, saying, "We just need a little space until we get this sorted. You don't even have to see him all the time." I told her again no. Dan looked hurt, but stayed quiet. I thought it was done, but then she got aggressive, saying that if I truly cared about her, I would help. She even started crying in my living room, which I hate when it happens in my own space because I feel like I have to manage the situation instead of relaxing. I ended up calling my mom, who was staying out of it, but she texted me back saying I should let them crash for a bit because Dan didn't have anywhere else to go. I ignored that because I felt my boundaries were more important here. I finally had to physically ask them to leave my apartment, which they did, but Lisa kept muttering things like, "I can't believe you'd choose your comfort over helping someone in need," which made me feel awful. Now Lisa is barely talking to me. She said she's reconsidering our relationship if I can't support her and Dan. She's posted on social media in a very passive-aggressive way about siblings who only care about themselves, and I'm sure people are assuming I'm the villain here. I feel like I've done the right thing. I offered to help financially, to help her find a short-term Airbnb, to help contact friends or family who might host Dan. I even said she could visit my apartment if she needed a place to calm down or sleep for a night herself, but not to have someone living in my space. But everyone keeps framing me as selfish. Dan, from what little I saw, seems charming but also very demanding and entitled. He didn't even offer to help with groceries or cleaning when he was briefly in my apartment. I'm starting to question myself because I don't want to be the horrible sister, but at the same time, I feel like my home is my sanctuary and letting him move in, even temporarily, would have been a nightmare for me. I also think Lisa should respect my boundaries, especially when I've been clear multiple times. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's partner move in with me, even though she's insisting it's only temporary and the right thing to do. AITA for refusing to let my sister use my wedding gift for her wedding without asking me. This has been going on for a while now, and I feel like I might be in the right, but my family is making me feel guilty. I'm hoping for some outside perspective. So a bit of background. I, 28F, got married about a year ago. My sister, 26F, is 2 years younger than me. Growing up, we were always close, but we definitely had a competing for attention dynamic. Our parents have always tried to treat us fairly, but some things naturally fell in favor of one of us at times, which caused tension. When I got married, a lot of my family pitched in for wedding gifts. One of the gifts that stuck out the most to me was a beautiful, handcrafted, full-size dining table for my grandparents. This table is literally something that could have been passed down for generations. It's made of solid oak, has intricate carvings, and has a few subtle, unique imperfections that give it character. Honestly, I still feel like it's the crown jewel of my dining room. Fast forward to about 6 months ago, my sister got engaged. When she started planning her wedding, she immediately started hinting that she wanted a dining table exactly like mine for her new home. At first, I thought she was just joking because I had already spent months picking out furniture for my own home. But then she started being more direct. She said, "It's so weird how your table is perfect for our style. Don't you think it would be easier if I just had yours for a while?" I was kind of taken aback. I didn't think she meant literally taking my table, but then she clarified she wanted me to give her my wedding table as a gift for her wedding. I froze. I love my sister, but this table isn't something I'm willing to part with. I tried to explain that it was incredibly sentimental and that giving it away would be like giving away a piece of my marriage. She reacted by saying, "It's just a table. You have other furniture. Don't be so dramatic." I thought maybe she didn't understand just how much this table meant to me, so I tried to explain again. I said, "This table was a gift from our grandparents. It's special because it was given to me and husband's name on our wedding day. I'm really not comfortable giving it away." She responded by getting upset, saying I was being selfish and unfair, and that I should share family heirlooms and support each other. The tension didn't stop there. When my parents found out about the disagreement, they started pressuring me. They said, "It's a wedding gift. It's not like you need it for life. You could just let her use it temporarily. She's your sister. You should be supportive." I told them I didn't mind if she admired it, came over for dinner, or even borrowed it temporarily if I was okay with it, but giving it to her permanently was not something I could do. My parents then accused me of playing favorites because I already gave other heirlooms to her in the past, like jewelry from our grandmother. My husband sided with me, which only made my sister angrier. She said he was controlling me and that I should do the right thing. She even tried to guilt me by saying, "You're letting me down just like mom and dad let you down when they didn't give you anything special for your wedding." That hurt, honestly, because I feel like I've been nothing but supportive of her entire life. And now she's painting me as the villain for keeping a piece of furniture that's literally mine. We haven't spoken much in the last 2 months. Every time I try to reach out, she brings up the table. Even mutual friends have started asking me why I'm being so mean about it. Some friends have suggested I compromise and let her borrow it for the wedding. But the thing is, she wants it permanently. Borrowing it temporarily might be okay, but it's a huge table and logistics-wise, it would be a nightmare to move it back and forth. Plus, I feel like it's a slippery slope. Once I give it to her, I don't think I'd ever see it again. I keep thinking about why this is causing such a strong reaction from everyone else. Maybe it's because in our family, gifts are often treated as communal and individual ownership isn't emphasized. But to me, this is different. It's a gift with emotional significance tied to my own life milestones. It's not just a piece of furniture. It represents my wedding, my new family, and the love that our grandparents put into making it for us. My sister recently posted on social media a picture of her wedding inspiration, and the caption was, "Can't wait to get a table like my name." Yes. My parents saw it and said, "See, she's just asking you to be generous. Don't be stubborn." I feel like I'm being painted as the villain, and honestly, it's exhausting. I have offered her alternatives. She could buy a custom table similar to mine, or we could help her look for one that fits her style. But she says nothing will ever be as special as mine, and that I should just give it to her. So here I am, frustrated, hurt, and feeling like maybe I'm being unreasonable. I don't think I am, but everyone in my family seems to think I should just give it to her to keep the peace. My husband says he supports me keeping it because it's mine and it's sentimental, but I still feel guilty because everyone is putting pressure on me. AITA for refusing to give my sister my wedding table? AITA for refusing to give my sister-in-law access to my newborn. Even though my husband says I'm being unreasonable, 28F, just had my first baby, a little boy named Oliver, about 6 weeks ago. Everything has been a whirlwind, but in a good way. My husband, Jake, 30M, has been amazing, helping me as much as he can, and I have a small but close circle of friends and family who check in regularly. I live about 15 minutes from my in-laws, which has been convenient for visits, and my family lives a bit further away. The issue is with Jake's sister, Amanda, 32F. To give some background, Amanda has always been a bit overbearing. She's very self-involved, likes to control situations, and generally pushes boundaries without noticing. Over the years, she's often inserted herself into decisions that weren't hers to make. For example, when Jake and I were planning our wedding, she insisted on rearranging the seating chart, the menu, and even some decor choices, claiming she just knew what would work best. We compromised in some areas, but it was exhausting. I had hoped that having a baby would naturally create some distance because, babies require boundaries, but apparently that wasn't the case. Even before Oliver was born, Amanda started hinting that she would be a helpful aunt and spending lots of time with him, which sounded nice at first until she started dropping subtle comments like, "I hope you don't mind me coming over anytime. Babies are meant to be shared. And don't worry, I'm practically a parenting expert." I brushed it off, assuming she was just excited, but I did express to Jake that I wanted to set some boundaries early. After Oliver was born, Amanda arrived at the hospital unannounced. She was so excited to meet him and brought a gift, which I appreciated, but the problem escalated quickly. She stayed for over 3 hours without asking if I wanted visitors and didn't leave when I subtly hinted that I was tired and needed to rest. She also insisted on holding him constantly, ignoring my instructions about swaddling and feeding. The nurses had to intervene at one point because she was trying to feed him formula against my wishes. I am breastfeeding, and we have a strict feeding schedule. When I told Jake I wanted to limit visits until we were more settled, he said, "She's family. You can't just cut her off." She loves Oliver, and it's not like she's doing anything wrong. I tried explaining that her definition of help and love was ignoring our rules, but he brushed it off. Since then, I've been clear that visits from Amanda need to be planned in advance, limited to an hour or two, and that I am the one in charge of feeding, holding, and any other care decisions. She has ignored all of these rules multiple times. Last week, she showed up at our house again without warning, while I was trying to get Oliver to nap and demanded to hold him. I said no, firmly, and she literally crossed her arms and refused to leave, saying, "You're being ridiculous. I just want to spend time with my nephew. Don't be so controlling." I called Jake down to handle it, and he basically told me to calm down and let her stay. I told him that under no circumstances was she allowed in our house without our permission, and if he wanted her to see Oliver, he could do it somewhere neutral like a park or a coffee shop. He got upset and said I was being dramatic and unreasonable, and that I was hurting his relationship with his sister. I've been holding my ground, because I know from past experience that if I don't, Amanda will start dictating every aspect of our parenting and our home life. I've tried explaining to Jake that setting boundaries now is about protecting our family, not being mean to Amanda. I even suggested supervised visits or scheduled times when she can hold Oliver under our rules. But Jake keeps arguing that family should automatically be trusted and that I'm pushing people away with my strict rules. Amanda has since escalated things by texting me multiple times a day asking for just 5 minutes with Oliver or sending long messages about how she feels unloved and unappreciated as an aunt. I've blocked her temporarily because it was stressing me out, and Jake told me I was being over the top and that I need to learn to share my baby with people who care about him. I feel like I'm in an impossible position. I love my husband, and I want him to have a good relationship with his sister, but I cannot compromise when it comes to my child's safety, routine, and my mental health. Every time Amanda ignores my rules, it feels like a violation of our home and our choices as parents. I'm starting to wonder if I'm being unreasonable. Am I overreacting by refusing to give Amanda unsupervised or unplanned access to Oliver? Or is Jake right, and I'm being too rigid about family involvement? AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding after a huge argument over her fiancé. This is going to be long, but I need to get it off my chest. So, I, 28F, have a sister, Emily, 31F, who is getting married in a few months. Our relationship has always been a little complicated. She's the perfect one, socially and professionally, while I've always been more on the independent, unconventional side. We're close in some ways, but there's always been this underlying tension, mostly because she tends to be extremely controlling and critical without realizing it. About a year ago, Emily started dating someone named Mark. At first, I thought he was okay, but over time, I began noticing red flags. He's very controlling in subtle ways. He tried to dictate what Emily wore, whom she spent time with, and even how she decorated her apartment. I tried talking to Emily about it gently, but she dismissed my concerns, saying I was overreacting or jealous of her happiness. I didn't push it further because I didn't want to strain our relationship, but I did start noticing more things. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, Emily asked me to be heavily involved in her wedding planning. She wants me to help with everything from the guest list to seating arrangements to floral choices. I initially said yes because I do love my sister and wanted her wedding to be beautiful. However, things started to get stressful almost immediately. Emily would call me multiple times a day, asking for opinions on things I frankly didn't care about, and then get upset if my answers weren't exactly what she wanted. It felt like I wasn't helping her plan a wedding. I was just a tool to validate her decisions. The breaking point happened last week. We had an in-person meeting about the guest list, and I casually mentioned that I was concerned about Mark's behavior toward her. I didn't accuse him of anything directly, but I pointed out that controlling behavior isn't healthy and that she deserved to be treated with respect. Emily exploded. She accused me of trying to ruin her happiness, said I was being judgmental, and claimed I was attacking her fiancé. I tried to calm her down, but she was not having it. It escalated to the point where she shouted that if I couldn't be supportive, I shouldn't be involved in the wedding at all. I left feeling furious, sad, and shocked. I decided to step back from the planning entirely. I told her I still loved her and wanted her to have a wonderful wedding, but I couldn't be part of it if it meant enabling or ignoring behavior I believed was harmful to her. Emily responded by cutting off all communication with me. Our parents and some mutual friends have been caught in the middle, with some saying I overstepped and others agreeing that I was trying to protect her. The situation has grown worse since then. Emily recently sent me a group text, including both our parents and her fiancé, accusing me of trying to sabotage the wedding and threatening to exclude me from the ceremony entirely. She also said that if I continued to interfere, she would ask our parents not to let me have any part in the reception. I haven't responded because, honestly, I don't know what I can say without escalating things further. Part of me feels like I'm doing the right thing by setting boundaries, but another part feels like I'm the bad sister for stepping back from something so important to her. I keep asking myself, am I really overreacting? Or is this about her controlling tendencies with both me and Mark? Some additional context. Emily has a history of being controlling with her friends and family, though she doesn't see it. Mark has been very charming to everyone else, which makes it hard for others to understand why I'm concerned. I'm not looking to win against Emily or ruin her wedding. I genuinely want her to be happy. I have tried multiple times to have calm conversations, but she always turns it into an argument. I also feel guilty because my absence will probably make her wedding planning harder and upset our parents, who are trying to stay neutral. I don't want to be seen as the villain, but I also don't want to compromise my own values or ignore behaviors that make me uncomfortable. I'm a loss. I keep replaying the argument in my head, thinking maybe I should have said nothing. But I also feel like saying nothing and participating as if everything was fine would be equally dishonest and potentially harmful. I have no desire to ruin her day, but I also can't pretend that I'm okay with ignoring serious red flags in her relationship. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding because of her fiancé's behavior and her reaction to me pointing it out. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my house after a big argument, even though it caused a huge family fallout. I, 32F, have always been the type to prioritize my home and my peace of mind above all else. My husband, Dan, 34M, and I bought a house together 5 years ago, and it's been our safe space ever since. We host family occasionally, but I've always been very clear about the kind of behavior we expect in our home. My sister, Lisa, 29F, has always been a little unpredictable and dramatic, but I've tried to support her as best as I can. Her fiancé, Mark, 31M, has been a source of tension for our family from the beginning. While Lisa is outgoing and excitable, Mark is controlling and incredibly manipulative, and over the years, my husband and I have had more than a few red flag moments with him. Last month, Lisa and Mark came to visit for a long weekend. Initially, things were fine, but tensions started to build as soon as Mark began micromanaging every aspect of the visit. He told me I shouldn't have decorated the guest room the way I did. He made comments about how messy the kitchen was, and he spent an entire evening criticizing my cooking in front of everyone. I tried to brush it off, but it quickly escalated when he started questioning how we raised our daughter, 6F, about basic chores and responsibilities. That night, things came to a head. Mark insisted that my daughter should be allowed to stay up past her bedtime because kids need freedom, which is the exact opposite of what we teach her. I calmly explained that bedtime rules are non-negotiable, but Mark raised his voice and said, "You're just controlling because you're insecure about being a parent." I told him he needed to leave if he couldn't respect our house rules. Lisa immediately jumped in, yelling at me to stop being dramatic and calling me overbearing. I refused to let Mark stay, and he stormed out of the house in anger. The fallout was immediate. Lisa called my parents and painted me as the unreasonable villain, saying I humiliated her fiancé in front of everyone. My parents were upset, but seemed to understand my position. Lisa, however, refused to speak to me for a week. When she finally did, she demanded that I apologize and let Mark stay whenever he visits, claiming that it's unfair to punish him for speaking his mind. I refused, explaining that I have the right to enforce rules in my own home and that this isn't about controlling him. It's about respecting boundaries and safety for my family. Things got worse during a family gathering a few days later. Lisa's fiancé and several of her friends were discussing the argument in front of my parents, trying to make me look unreasonable. They claimed I'm rigid and harsh, can't handle criticism, and ruined family harmony. My parents tried to mediate, but Lisa stood firm, saying that my refusal to accommodate Mark is damaging their relationship and that I'm the one being selfish. Since then, there's been a noticeable tension at every family event. Lisa won't attend unless Mark is welcome, and when she does attend, there's always passive-aggressive comments about how unfair I am. Mark, on the other hand, has never apologized for his behavior and continues to act as though he is entitled to our hospitality. My husband is completely on my side, but even he admits that this has put a real strain on our relationship with my sister and family. I've tried explaining my perspective multiple times. Our home, our rules, our daughter's well-being. I feel like it's reasonable to expect basic respect, especially after Mark openly criticized our parenting in front of our child. I've also offered compromises, like meeting in neutral spaces or limiting visits to short durations. But Lisa insists that Mark must be allowed to stay under any circumstances. Some friends have told me I might be overreacting, saying family is about compromise and that I could just tolerate him for a weekend. Others think I'm justified and that Mark crossed a line that makes him unwelcome. I feel torn because I don't want to lose my sister over this, but I also feel strongly that our home should be a safe and comfortable place for my immediate family, and that includes enforcing rules that protect my daughter's routine and our peace. The argument has also affected my mental health. I've always been patient and tolerant with family, but this situation has left me feeling anxious and resentful. I dread any event where Lisa and Mark are present, and I'm constantly questioning if I should just give in to avoid conflict. But every time I think about letting Mark back into our home without addressing the previous behavior, I feel like I would be compromising my family's boundaries and my own principles. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my home after a big argument. Even though it has caused a huge family fallout, I feel like I have every right to protect my family and my house. But I also see that my decision has created tension and resentment. I want to maintain a relationship with my sister, but I don't know if that's possible if it comes at the expense of my own boundaries. The situation has escalated to the point where other relatives are taking sides, and I fear it may permanently damage my relationship with my sister. I'm torn between enforcing what I know is right for my household and trying to preserve family unity. I've considered family counseling, but Lisa refuses, claiming that nothing is wrong on her side. I want to do what's right without sacrificing my family's peace. Was I wrong to take a firm stance and refuse him entry? Or should I have swallowed my frustration and let Mark stay to keep the peace? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior? I, 27F, have always been close to my younger sister, Mia, 24F. Growing up, we were inseparable, even through the typical fights siblings have. Our parents are divorced, and most of our childhood was split between them, but Mia and I always had each other's backs. That's why the situation I'm in now feels so surreal and heartbreaking. Mia got engaged about a year ago to her now fiancé, Alex, 26M. From the beginning, I had a weird feeling about him. Something in his demeanor rubbed me the wrong way. I tried to ignore it because I didn't want to be the annoying sister, but the red flags kept piling up. For context, Alex has a reputation in his friend group for being very controlling and manipulative, though I initially thought maybe that was exaggerated gossip. Our first major interaction was at Mia's birthday dinner a few months after they started dating. Alex spent the entire evening belittling the waitstaff in very subtle ways, making jokes at their expense, and Mia just laughed nervously along. I remember pulling Mia aside and asking her if she felt uncomfortable, and she brushed it off. Over the next few months, I noticed small things: how Alex talked over her in conversations, how he subtly undermined her decisions, and how he seemed to expect everyone to cater to his moods. I tried to bring up my concerns gently, but Mia kept insisting that he was just a little bossy sometimes, and that he treated her well. Fast forward to last winter, Mia announced that they were planning their wedding. I was genuinely happy for her, but as the planning unfolded, my unease grew. Alex insisted on controlling almost every aspect, from the venue to the guest list to the music. Mia, who is normally very independent, seemed increasingly stressed and quiet, often texting me late at night about how tense things were getting. The tipping point for me came about 2 months ago. Alex started insisting that certain family members shouldn't be invited, specifically my dad and his partner. He claimed it would ruin the vibe and that he didn't feel comfortable with them there. This was particularly upsetting because our dad has been a huge support to Mia, especially since their divorce. When I confronted Mia about it, she said, "I know it's not fair, but I also don't want to fight right before the wedding." I couldn't wrap my head around it. It felt like Alex was trying to isolate her from the people who love her. Then came the last straw. A week ago, Mia called me crying because Alex had thrown a full-blown tantrum because she wanted a few of her childhood friends included in the bridal party. He said if his sister and friends weren't included, he wouldn't participate at all. Mia sounded exhausted and miserable, which broke my heart. I told her she deserved better and that she needed to stand up for herself, but she seemed paralyzed. After that conversation, I made a difficult decision. I sent Mia a message telling her that I couldn't attend the wedding as long as Alex was part of it. I explained that I loved her, but I could not be part of a day where someone she loved and trusted was treating her like this. I made it clear it wasn't about the wedding itself or her. It was about Alex's behavior and how it affected her. The response from my family has been overwhelmingly negative. My parents are upset because they think I'm being dramatic. Some of our mutual friends are calling me an asshole for ruining her special day. My dad tried to reason with me, saying that Mia is an adult and can handle herself, and that I'm overstepping. I feel torn because part of me knows Mia is capable, but another part sees clearly that she is under significant emotional pressure and might not recognize how controlling Alex is. Mia herself hasn't spoken much since I sent the message. She did text once saying, "I can't believe you do this," which hurt a lot. I understand she's in a complicated position, but I genuinely feel like I'm protecting her from a day that could be emotionally damaging. I also feel frustrated because I've watched Alex systematically undermine her confidence, and I don't want to be complicit by being silent. I've tried reaching out to her gently, offering support and asking if she wants to talk about boundaries or strategies for handling Alex, but she hasn't responded. I don't want to alienate her, but at the same time, I can't in good conscience attend a wedding where I believe someone I love is being manipulated. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's controlling behavior? I keep questioning myself. Maybe I should just put my feelings aside and go to support her on her big day. But I honestly feel like doing so would feel like condoning Alex's behavior. I just can't bring myself to do that. I'm prepared for the backlash, but I really want an honest perspective. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her bridal party rules? I, 28F, have always been close with my sister, Emma, 31F, but lately things have been tense. I'm hoping to get an outside perspective because I'm starting to doubt whether I'm the unreasonable one here. Emma got engaged about a year ago, and from the start, she has been very particular about her wedding plans. That in itself isn't unusual, but things started to feel controlling and frankly unrealistic pretty quickly. She decided early on that she wanted her bridal party to reflect a very specific aesthetic. Everyone had to be the same height, within a couple inches, wear a very particular style of dress, and maintain a strict fitness regimen in the months leading up to the wedding. She even suggested that some people might need to get adjustments in the form of diet or minor cosmetic procedures to fit the look. When she asked me to be in her bridal party, I agreed at first because I love my sister and I wanted to support her. But then came the rules. She insisted that all bridesmaids must adhere to a diet and exercise plan that she created, which included calorie restrictions, daily workouts, and strict weekly weigh-ins. She also said we couldn't complain about it, and if we weren't meeting the standards, she might have to reconsider our inclusion in the wedding party. I tried to discuss my concerns with her. I explained that her plan was extreme and that it made me uncomfortable to have my body policed in that way. I suggested compromises, like choosing dresses that were flattering for each person and focusing on health rather than strict numbers. Emma told me I was overreacting and that this was about the perfect wedding photos and aesthetic. She claimed it wasn't personal, it was just her vision. Things escalated when she sent a detailed spreadsheet of acceptable body measurements for each bridesmaid. At that point, I refused to comply. I told her I would love to attend her wedding, but I would not participate in the bridal party under those conditions. She was furious, saying I was being selfish, ruining the wedding experience, and undermining her vision. The situation has divided our family. My parents say I'm being stubborn and should just put on the dress and be happy for Emma. My friends mostly agree with me, pointing out that her demands are unreasonable and potentially harmful. Emma has started messaging me constantly, trying to guilt me into joining. She says things like, "I thought my own sister would support me," and "Do you hate me that much you won't even be in my wedding?" I feel like I'm standing up for myself and my boundaries. I don't want to be part of something that makes me feel uncomfortable and judged for my body. But I also feel guilty because it's my sister's wedding and I love her. I keep thinking maybe I'm overreacting and that I should just suck it up for one day. The latest development is that Emma has started excluding me from wedding-related events. She hasn't invited me to dress fittings, bachelorette parties, or even casual planning meetings. She keeps saying that since I don't want to be in the wedding, I can't be part of anything. I'm hurt because I still want to celebrate her happiness, but it feels like she's punishing me for my decision. I tried suggesting that I could help in other ways, like organizing a small pre-wedding brunch, helping with decorations, or even just being there for moral support on the day itself. She refuses, saying it's too late to include me meaningfully and that I should have just followed the plan. I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm being responsible by setting boundaries, but I also feel like I'm losing my sister over this. Every family gathering now feels tense, and I'm constantly worrying about what she will say next. I'm posting here because I genuinely want to understand if I'm the asshole. Am I being selfish for refusing to join the bridal party? Should I just compromise for the sake of family and my relationship with Emma? Or am I right to stand my ground? AITA for refusing to babysit my nephew after my sister made a huge deal about it. I, 32F, have always had a decent relationship with my sister, 28F, and her husband, 30M, but things have started getting tense recently. For context, my sister has a 3-year-old son, Ethan, and ever since he was born, she's been very demanding when it comes to family help. Normally, I don't mind helping out occasionally, but over the past few months, her requests have escalated to the point where I feel manipulated. Last weekend, my sister called me on Friday night around 9 p.m. She sounded frantic and said she had to work a double shift on Saturday, and there was no one else who could watch Ethan. She pleaded, almost begging, for me to come watch him for the entire day from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. I live about 45 minutes away, and I had plans to attend a small gathering with my friends that day, something I've been looking forward to for weeks. I told her honestly that I couldn't commit to babysitting for 15 hours and that I had prior plans. She immediately started to get upset and said she doesn't know why I can't just drop everything for family, which felt manipulative because she knew I had plans. I tried to compromise and suggested a few hours in the afternoon, or even just coming over to entertain him for a few hours while she got some rest before her shift. She flat out refused and said it wouldn't be enough and that Ethan needs someone who could be there all day. At that point, I said no and ended the call. The next morning, my sister started texting me nonstop. She called me selfish, said I don't care about family, and even implied that I don't like spending time with Ethan, which is completely untrue. I've always enjoyed spending time with him, but I don't think it's fair for her to guilt me into giving up an entire day last minute. I also reminded her that she has other options, her husband, her parents, or even a babysitter, but she insisted none of them could help. Later that afternoon, my mom called me. She said that my sister was devastated and that I was breaking up the family by not helping. She also hinted that maybe I could have at least gone over for a few hours. I explained my side again and said that I offered alternative solutions, but she still sounded annoyed with me. Things escalated further when my sister posted a picture on social media of Ethan with the caption, "Family isn't always there when you need them," tagging me in it. I was blindsided and felt humiliated because I didn't reply to her posts. I just didn't want to get into a public argument. I haven't spoken to her in person since the incident, and when I finally messaged her check-in, she replied coldly, saying, "Maybe you should rethink your priorities." I feel like I'm being punished for setting boundaries. I love my nephew and my sister, but I also need my own life and my own plans. I've babysat for her before, and I've even rearranged my own schedule in the past, but I feel like she expects me to be available 24/7. A few friends and coworkers have told me I'm justified, and even my boyfriend says I shouldn't feel guilty for saying no, but part of me feels guilty anyway. My sister has always been dramatic, but this feels different because she's involving the rest of the family and making me look bad publicly. I'm wondering if I overreacted or if I should have just gone over for a few hours to avoid the drama. Am I really the asshole for refusing to babysit for an entire day, especially when I offered alternative solutions? Or am I being unfair to my sister? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.